Okay, so this is the joiner here. The joiner is a tool used for flattening warped stock. What is warped stock? Well, warped stock or wood is wood that is not flat. You can see on this piece of wood here that it's got this cup to it here. If I put it down on a flat surface, we see that we have a big gap right here. That's nowhere near flat. We flip it over and it rocks like a rocking chair. Okay, so what do we want to do on this machine? We want to make it flat. So the first operation is going to be making a face flat. What's a face? This is a face. So that's the face of the board. And this is the edge of the board. Before I go joint this board, I want to show you how the machine works. So to do that, I'm going to remove the safety guard so you can see the cutter head. And what I'll do is roll the fence back. To do that, I'm going to loosen this lever right here, and I'm going to turn that wheel until I have enough of that cutter head exposed. So what is a cutter head? Why don't you come in here close and we'll take a look at the cutter head. If I drop this down, we can see that the cutter head is made up of a series of small teeth in a helical manner. This is a helical head cutter. So what I want to do now is raise up the in-feed table to a 1/16 lower than the out-feed table. So what I'm going to do here is raise up the in-feed table so that it's about a 1/16 above or below the out-feed table. Okay, so what we got here is a straight edge that's on level with the out-feed table, and I'm going to drop the in-feed table down so that I'm taking a 1/16 of an inch off every time I run that board through. So you might not be able to see that in the camera, but we're going to get that to about a 1/16 of an inch, raise it up just a little bit, drop it down somewhere in that neighborhood. I'm going to lock it down. There we go. That should always be set for you. You never have to adjust that. And you never have to adjust the outfeed table either. So never adjust the infeed or the outfeed table. If you think that the machine needs to be adjusted, come get me and we'll adjust it together. Okay, so I'm going to put the blade guard on. Tighten this down. That noise you just heard is pretty important. This noise right here. That noise tells me that the blade guard has returned over the knives. So we're about ready to make a cut. One thing we want to do is adjust the fence so it's appropriate to the board that we're cutting. This board here is about 6 inches wide, so I want to bring the fence in a little bit so I'm not leaning over the machine as much. So about right there, we'll lock the fence and get ready to make the cut. Now remember that noise you heard? That's important. So I'm going to use this thing here, and if you read it, it says, "Use me for face jointing." One hand goes here, one hand goes here. This hooks on the back of the board, and we're going to move it like that and push it on through. So now we have that board relatively flat. You'll see right here that we have a little bit more to go, but as long as your board's about 90% flat, that's all you need. If we go back over here, we can see that that board is now flat, and that took about 7 or 8 passes to make that flat. A lot of times you'll have a board like this that just needs to be cleaned up a little bit. So we'll do that now. Okay, so now we have a flat board, one flat face. Remember that noise I was telling you about? Every time I ran the board through, I made sure that the blade was covered by the guard. And the way I know that is through that noise. And we have the fact that we have a 1/16 of an inch off in one pass. So keep that in mind for the safety test. Next thing we got to do is joint the edge right here. We're going to joint that edge. To do that, we're going to put that newly flattened face up against the fence, and we're going to run it through like this. But again, before we do that, it's good practice to come out and adjust the fence this way a little bit so we don't have to lean over the machine as much. So we're going to loosen that lever and push this in. And go ahead and make our cut. To do that, if your board is above the fence, we're not going to use a push stick. If it's below the fence, we are going to use a push stick. For this demonstration, I'll do it both ways. So let me get the dust collectors on and so what you saw me do there was two different ways to accomplish the same goal. If the board was small, I would want to use a push stick like this and hook on the back side like that, and your hands are like this. This is an important aspect of using the joiner in a lot of woodworking tools, is keeping your hands like this. You want your 3 fingers tucked into your palm, and you have that little crease right there is where your gripping happens. So this looks like here and here. That's going to be used for a lot of different operations. So keep that in mind. Okay, so this board here happens to be about 3 feet long, and that's a good size to use for the machine. Over here, if you can come and take a look at this, it reads, "Is your board this long?" Well, the distance between those two lines is a foot. So what I'm asking is to make sure your board is at least 12 inches long. If it's not, come get me, and we'll figure out a different way of doing this. But I don't want you hurting yourself on a short board here. Make sure that your wood is not, or is free from paint and nails. We don't want a lot of paint or nails going through here. It's going to damage the machine. And also, if you have a loose knot, something like this, that would come out in the machine and cause some damage to the machine too. So if you have a loose knot, let me know. One for the books there. Okay, so if you have any questions while you're taking this test, come get me and I'll fill you in. Thanks. One thing I forgot to mention was always make sure that the boards you are using never has any nails or screws or has been painted. We don't want any paint to ruin the knives of the machine. Also, if you have long hair, tie it back, and if you have any jewelry, make sure that's off. Same with watches or anything kind of dangling from yourself. Always zip up your sweatshirts too.